Okay, so you should be recording. See the waveforms popping up as you talk.
I mean, I hadn't said anything, but yeah, I see it
Nice.
recording.
Okay. All right. Let me just get into the mood.
But yeah, I see it
Nice.
recording.
Okay. All right. Let me just get into the mood. Know what I'm saying?
You got a little what was that? The thing from what's the movie called? Pitch Perfect. Yeah, the pitch thing where they ring the bell, like blow into that little horn thing.
I don't think I've seen Pitch Perfect.
What is wrong with you? I need you to stop this podcast immediately and go watch those three movies.
We gonna figure it out.
Have you at least seen Mean Girls?
Yes.
Okay, well then I can
Yes.
respect that.
Yes.
We'll excuse Pitch Perfect for now.
All right. So let's get it started. So welcome everyone to the second episode of Man in the Arena podcast. My name is Joshua Woods. I'll be your host. Today's episode is about optimism in the face of obstacles. And kind of didn't know exactly how to frame it and exactly what points I want to nail down, but I think the conversation I'm about to have is going to be quite interesting, quite revealing, and I think I'm going to certainly learn some things, and I hope you guys will too. Joining me today is I shouldn't even call him best friend. He's basically my brother. He calls my mom. So I think that explains how close our relationship is, and I do consider him a brother. It's my main man. Samuel Patterson, Sam for short. So Sam, welcome to the podcast.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, so I've known Sam, I guess we can go to some background. I've known Sam when did we meet Sam? I feel like the date always switches.
Let's just assume 2007, like the beginning of high school.
Okay.
Because honestly, I can't place where I met half of you guys.
Yeah.
I just know it was sometime in high school, and it was just like all of a sudden we were all at the same table and for lunch, and it was like, "Sup?
Yeah.
Let me get your fruit snacks, Ron." That's basically how it went.
Yeah, so the folks that he's talking about, our group consists of the same. It's like our high school group. We call ourselves the Wolf Pack. And Stefan is another member, so he's included in that group as well. But yeah, Sam says we met in 2007, and I can believe that. But can I tell him my first memory of you?
Yes.
Like, for whatever reason, I think it's just because this singular event just wiped out any previous memory I had with Sam. But I remember we were in, I think it was 11th grade.
It was statistics and technical writing.
Yeah, and it was just one of those chill days. I think we were like watching a movie. Sam came over. He sat down next to me. It was like these tables where it's like two people to a table, just everybody facing the front room. And in fact, it had one of your adopted mothers who was teaching.
Actually,
you.
that's geology and space.
Oh, it was geology and space.
Writing.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I don't know why senior year. I don't know, but yeah.
So geology and space, junior year. I had to
okay.
retake statistics and technical writing. We're not going to talk about that part.
Yeah, and so Sam comes over, he sits down, and he puts his backpack on the table, and he's just talking about whatever. And at that time, he had a girlfriend that he had been with for like a couple of years, and we just started talking, whatever, just saying, shooting the shit or whatever. And Sam just opens up his backpack, and there's just hundreds of condoms in his backpack.
Hundreds is an exaggeration.
It was quite a bit. Like, you could say
I'd
dozens
say
or
I have maybe
hundreds.
like I probably bought the big 36 pack box.
You
or
probably
whatever,
bought 36 of those 36 packs.
There's no way, because it'd just be a whole back. Like, it was only the front pocket, and there were definitely at least 20 in there.
Yeah,
probably because I think I'd probably skip class and just bought those.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
So there were I couldn't see any textbooks. It was like, if there were, it was like somebody had laid a blanket of condoms.
I didn't carry textbooks, so there was absolutely not a single textbook in there. Yes, it was straight condoms and then like candy wrappers.
And candy wrappers, which hard to discern between the two. I would not want to bet anything if I just did a blind grab into the backpack. Like, oh, what is that? Is that a sucker? Oh, no, no, no. Let's
What'd he
put that
pull this time, Johnny?
back. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think that kind
was.
of gives you guys some insight into Sam's personality. He's a awesome dude. I mean, I love him. It's hard not to. But yeah, so that was like junior year. But
Yeah, that was. I think we had classes together before then. We
right,
had, I believe. I don't. Who'd you have for physical science freshman year?
Mr. Hammond.
We had the
Uh,
same teacher. I don't know if we had the same
did you
class.
have Ernest in your class?
Oh God, yes.
You did. Okay, so maybe we
I think
even
so.
yeah, because I remember Ernest was definitely in my class as well.
I'm pretty sure Ernest was in there. Oh God.
But yeah, and
Teacher
now
also explains a lot.
so yeah, Sam and I have known each other for quite a while. In high school, like when he especially started coming over my house a lot, we started really hanging out. He would often come into my house, say hi to my mom. I call her mom, and then just go into the pantry or fridge. Most of the time,
Immediately go to
both.
find food. Yes, I was a hungry kid.
And I'd be in the den playing Xbox. You'd be in the living room, and we just it was a true brother. It was awesome because I have four sisters and no brothers, so Sam is one of the brothers that I've picked up along the way, and I really appreciate that. And now Sam, I'm in Michigan. Sam is on the directly what is it like southwest of me
Yeah,
in
I think so.
Indiana, and we've stuck together or stuck in contact all through college, and now he's working full time as a what you call it a IT
Linux
Linux.
Linux system admin.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm in grad school at the University of Michigan. But Sam has had a very unique, just extraordinary life, and it's one of those things that you think about it and you look at all these statistics and you look at somebody like Sam who's successful, who has a lot of people in his life, who continues to just do the right thing and is really on a proper track. And statistically, it's like you want to say like that wasn't supposed to happen. You shouldn't be in this position. Yet here he is. And I don't say that to insult you or begrudgingly, but it's just really like
No,
a testament to
I sit down often and wonder how I got
how you got here,
how I
right?
got to where I am because
It's a
you're
miracle
not wrong.
in a
You're not
way.
wrong. Um, I I can get into it later
Yeah,
as we
there's
go
a
into
couple
it.
of things
I have a yeah.
I want to state specifically. One of which is how you just make like these very personal relationships and you stick with them. Like I haven't seen somebody develop so many personal relationships and stick with them to the level that you have, and I feel like that's really a testament to why you've been so successful. So maybe that's kind of what this podcast will become is just that particular set of skills that you have, skills that you have developed over a very long time, skills that make you a
Um,
nightmare for people like blah blah blah. Uh, but
is it
yeah,
really a nightmare though? Would it really be a
I guess it'd
nightmare?
be
If it's a
a
nightmare,
dream.
please
I
let me
don't
know
know.
now.
It depends on what you doing. I don't know. You may be doing something else on the side and makes you a nightmare for folks. Uh,
I like to hope not. And if so, I probably couldn't talk about it in this open forum.
right. He'd have to kill all of us. So,
Maybe, all your listeners, if you're listening, don't do it.
uh, but I remember. So I've been down to Sam's spot. Sam has been up to my spot. And I remember when he visited me for the first time in May, he just mentioned like, "Hey, one of my mentors from a previous job wants to have us over for dinner." Really cool. So it was like me, Sam, and then another friend who Sam has sort of picked up along the way, and came over here, and then we were like all hanging out for a weekend. I think it was Memorial Day weekend because I remember I showed
Yeah,
you guys my lab on Memorial Day.
yeah.
But I just remember when we went over your mentor's place, like just how impressed she was with like the work you had done, and just like I've only really talked with you on this sort of like brotherly friendship level. I don't really have that eye into like your professional career. So I heard sort of these things on the peripheral about like, oh, these are sort of the projects that you're doing, and this is how you're doing. But like when I heard your mentor speak, I was like, wow, Sam is really like developing himself in like this professional way that I just have not had eyes into, and it really opened my eyes to based on like where because I know the story of like where you had come from, and now seeing truly where you were like in the present, that whole delta was just like
It,
unbelievable.
it's I sit down, like I said, I sit down often and I wonder how I got from where I was to how I got to where I am,
Yeah,
and to see the changes over time. Like I look back into where I was mentally, where I was physically in high school, and the things that I was going through then, and then I turn to college and look at the things that I was dealing with at that time in that 4 year span,
yeah,
and I'm 4 years out of college now, so it's like I have these literal three,
three
trimesters
four
of
year
4 years
chunks.
of like this is where I was, and this is what was going on, and I
Right.
went from that beginning of all those adversities to right now where it's like, okay, I never thought I would make it here. How did I get here? Like, how did I end up being quote unquote successful?
Right. And you really are. You should definitely give yourself credit for that. And I feel like excuse me, I feel like we've sort of been teasing the audience with like, oh, what Sam's background. So why don't you, and I
Okay,
know you can talk a long time about
I
anything.
can.
So why don't we
I
just
wish.
like take off the what you call it, the cuffs, and why don't you tell us about the story of Sam starting from wherever, and we'll just kind of go from there. How does that sound?
It's fine by me. I
Okay.
wish that you would think that at this point I would have mastered a shorthand version of this or some Cornell notes or something.
No,
Um,
we want as many details as you can provide us. We'll
you want
see
the
how
nitty
long.
gritty?
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with.
Cool. That's fine.
Because like I said, this podcast is meant to show people's journeys. Because I feel like even though you've reached this point where you're pretty successful for your age, we're both. No, Sam is 27 now. I'm 26, but both
Just
like in our
barely.
20s,
I'm
and
27 by like 5 days.
but you're still develop. Happy birthday, happy late birthday. But we're still sort of developing ourselves, and I know we're both still struggling with a lot of things. But I think it'd be interesting to see how you've sort of progressed over your life to be where you are now. So yeah,
Um,
just wherever you want.
I'll I'll start where I guess I'll start where my memory starts for the most part. Um, the one of the few first memories I have is and one of the reasons why I don't really talk much about my birthday um, is mostly because it's hard for me to celebrate my life knowing what I lost on that day
Yeah.
as well. On my fourth birthday, my mom passed away. Um, I was also told that my dad, biological dad, had passed away as well.
Is that on the
But
same
we'll
day?
get into, yeah,
Oh man.
6 hours between each other.
So at 4 years old, preschool. I don't even know if you're in preschool, but like you had already basically become an orphan.
Basically. So um, at that time, I don't remember the funeral. I do remember my mom dying, like in my hands. I was there.
Hmm.
Um, but the funeral wasn't me centered. So at that age, you kind of the memory doesn't stick unless it has to do with you. Um, my family says I was there, but I couldn't tell you. Um, After that, I have two older brothers and an older sister. I'm the baby by like 18 years. Um, yeah, my next sibling is 18 years older than I am. And that's Dan. Then my sister Rachel is 21 years older than me,
Hmm.
and my brother Eric just turned 50 this year. Um, so just to give you some insight as to where they were at the time.
So it's like you're
Um,
you're almost kind of like I don't want to
man,
say
they were
isolated,
adults.
but yeah, it's like
Yeah,
just separate generations. So it's kind of hard to even identify with them.
massively. Um, I was born into having nephews. Like,
Yeah.
how amazing that is. Sarcasm right there. Um, both, yeah, I was born and I got nephews that are older than me. It's weird. It's a weird dynamic. Anyway, um, so after that point, this was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where I was born. I remember, like I said, very I have very few memories. I remember being thrown into a pile of snow that was at least waist deep. Waist is, I think, current waist, like my current, how high my current waist is. I think it had to be like that much because I fell into the snow. Like you could, I got hidden in snow. Um, I remember the day. I think I can remember most of that day that my mom passed away. We were coming back from buying candy from the corner store. It was pretty late at night. Um, anyway, after that, I was given custody. Custody of me was given to my sister, and we ended up moving to Charlotte, North Carolina. And my eldest brother, we all kept, they all kept pretty close after that, I guess. I've never really asked them the story of what happened to them after. Um, but at 5 years old, we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm starting school, kindergarten. Um, I got suspended in kindergarten twice, actually. Uh,
How'd you get
the
suspended in kindergarten?
the memory I got suspended twice. The first one was there was a Power Rangers movie or something that came out recently. Something.
Oh, was it
And some
Turbo?
kid. I I couldn't tell you. I was 5. Don't remember that part back. That's 97,
Oh, it must have
somewhere in
been
there.
Mighty Morphin
So,
movie.
so at that point, some fourth grader got off the bus and was doing all as much of the Power Rangers tricks as he possibly could, and I got kicked in the back of the head. Um, I guess at 5 years old, I was still about that real life because you swinging, we swinging back, and so I tried to beat him up. Um, and I'm the one. I got kicked in the head, and I'm the one that got in trouble. And they suspended a fifth, not 5 year, yeah, 5 year old, for fighting.
For public school, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
A little to be a little grim, uh, because I didn't beat him up, and I didn't get the opportunity to. And since we were talking about how, if I have to say too much, I'd have to, off a person. That kid died like 2 weeks later, choking on a hot dog in the cafeteria.
What?
Clearly, he had it coming or something.
Lord
I
have
don't know.
mercy.
I don't really know how that really works, but yeah, want to get a little dark there. Um, anywho, about a I don't know if that was my first suspension or my second. The other suspension was a kid in my class said something about my mom, and
Mm.
we had trailers that we had to walk to for like art class and stuff like that, and there was a trail through some woods that we had to go through to get there. He said it. I was the caboose of the line that day, and he was right in front of me, and he said it, and I just remember choking him out, like
Oh
up
wow.
against the fence. No one knew where we were because we were at the back of the line, and I guess no one thought it was a good idea to look back there for a couple of 5 year olds in the woods. But I was up against the gate, still choking them out when the teacher came back, not realizing that we were there, and I got suspended for that. Um,
So kind of turbulent. You're already sort of fighting as a five
yes,
year old. I did have one question. So you have it's three siblings,
yes,
three biological
biological,
siblings, because we'll
yeah.
get into Sam's extended family, which includes me. Uh, but do you guys all have the same father as well?
No.
No. Okay.
What I learned from my sister when I went to Vegas earlier this year, and I'm using her words, not mine. My mom was a hoe with a heart. So, her words, not
That's a very
mine.
affectionate
But
way to put it.
the way she put it off, though, was that apparently my dad was the only one that my mom married.
I
Um,
see.
so, but it couldn't have meant much because I don't have a memory of my father. I have memories of my stepdad, but somewhere between, newborn and 4, they lost contact or something.
I get you. So you're in kindergarten, been suspended twice.
Yes.
So how long were you down in North Carolina?
I stayed in North Carolina for 2 years, 2-ish
Yes.
years. We moved, uh, yeah, I remember kindergarten, first grade, somewhere in second grade, we moved from North Carolina to Los Angeles, California.
Oh wow.
Um,
So you're like what, like
Literally across country.
six
I'm
or
7
seven?
at that point.
Seven? Already been to
Yeah.
like three different states?
Yes. There were some stops on the way
Mm-hmm.
just because we had car troubles and stuff like that, and we weren't in school. So that caused some issues for some people. By the time we actually made it to Charlotte, we were closer to the end of the school year than we were at the beginning. Uh,
I see.
I started second grade in Charlotte, and I finished second grade in California. Um,
Do you remember
at that
that
time,
being difficult, just like adjusting to all that moving?
it it was hard to adjust for the moving, just solely based on how that whole turn of events happened.
Yeah.
My eldest brother and my sister, and this is hindsight, so I don't actually know the facts to it or not. I was 7, so this is what I can sort of remember. They got into a fight basically about custody over me, and
Mm-hmm.
my brother won said argument, and my sister relinquished full custody to my eldest brother at the time. Um, Maybe there should have been a comma in that sentence. My sister relinquished full custody to my brother then. Yeah. So at that point, my brother had full custody of me. Up until that point, they were just kind of flipping me year to year. So
Mm-hmm.
kindergarten, I was with my sister. First grade, I was with my brother. Going into second grade, I was with my sister. And then he gets full custody, and we're moving to Los Angeles, California.
Gotcha. So it
Uh,
wasn't moving wasn't so much tough as it was probably like being bounced from house to house almost.
yeah, it was pretty normal for me by that point. It was already my standard. Um,
Yeah.
we can get into this more in depth in the future parts of the story, but basically there was a check, and I didn't know about it until I was a teenager. So
Uh,
we'll
Based on whoever
we'll
had
leave that.
custody of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So um, so we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. Not Charlotte. We moved to Los Angeles, California, and by that point, moving was pretty normal. We stayed there about two-ish year, going nearly 2 years. I was suspended several times while I was in California. Uh, the weirdest thing about California school, like schooling, is they have you on tracks or whatever. It's like A track, B track, C track, D track. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember which one was which. One was for fast tracking, one was for normal tracking, one was for special needs, and there was another one. And they go to school year round. Like I
Oh,
kid
okay.
you not,
Even the public
in
schools?
July, yes, in
Oh,
July
that's child
it was
abuse.
it was 4th of July weekend,
Uh-huh.
and I stopped being a third grader. And as soon as the weekend was over, I was going to be a fourth grader. But we moved that weekend.
What
We
part
ended up
of
moving back to
what part of
Charlotte,
California were you in?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles? Okay.
I
And
can
this
tell
was
you what
with
my
your
address was.
sister?
Eldest brother
Eldest
and
brother
sister-in-law.
and
Yeah. So
sister-in-law.
my sister-in-law was from there.
Okay.
Well, she's from Mexico, moved to Los Angeles at some point, and that's who we had contact with at that time. They were helping us out.
What kind of work did your brothers and sisters do? Who you were staying with?
No idea. I
No
couldn't tell
idea.
you.
Okay.
Not a clue. I know my sister-in-law used to do a lot of she worked as a server a lot for
Mm-hmm.
restaurants, but my brother I could never peg to tell you what he did up until I met you. Um,
Oh wow.
as far as I know, he could have been jobless for as much as I know. I couldn't tell you.
How would you
Um,
describe? And I'm only asking this because I want to make sure the audience has like a frame to work with of like maybe what your situation was. But how would you define your economic level? Like for me, I grew up in lower
oh
middle class, probably
man,
comfortable, but uh,
poor.
you're
We were poor.
poor. Okay,
Like more times than not, and that's probably the reason that they stuck together so much was that
out of necessity.
yeah. So um, I can't say that I was a first generation college graduate because I think my mom graduated.
Mm-hmm.
But I am not to humble brag or anything. I am the most successful of my siblings,
Right.
and I'm only 27. So let that sink in for a minute, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
And
at that time, we were staying in my sister-in-law's mother's property. I'm not sure if they were paying rent or not, but there were 6 of us in the house. Yeah, and we only had bunk beds. We only had one set of bunk beds. It was not a house
mm-hmm.
built. It was a one bedroom. Now that I think about it, it was a one bedroom house, and there's 6 people in there. And we had a bunk bed. I had a bunk. India was no Joy was just born recently. India was going into kindergarten ish.
So
Um,
there are like 3 kids there, 4 kids.
There's myself, there was Precious, India, and Joy was a newborn.
Okay. And these are all
Pretty
your,
sure Joan.
I guess,
Nieces.
nieces, but
All my,
they're
yeah. They're
your
like my
age.
sisters because we grew up together.
Right.
So when we talk about stuff like that amongst ourselves, it's always like, yeah, my sister or, this or that. And it's like, no, I have to remember that you guys aren't actually my sisters, you're my
So
nieces,
it's almost like your brothers and sisters were like your aunts and uncles, and your nieces and nephews were like your cousins.
basically.
Okay.
Like it was a weird dynamic because I had to look at my brother and sister-in-law as my parental figures,
Right.
but that's my brother. It's like you're my brother and you're my sister-in-law, and it didn't uh, it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
I knew what I had to do
Just
just
kind of like
based
it
off
was
of
what it
what
was.
they told me. Yeah,
Yeah.
but um, we moved back to Charlotte somewhere around fourth grade. Stayed there for a couple of months, and after that I moved to Arkansas.
Oh, so you
There
went
were again
from
more steps.
you went back from California all the way to the other, literally to the other
Yes,
side of the country again, back to North
yes.
Carolina, and then you
Stayed
came to
there.
Arkansas.
Yep.
Okay. So
Um, fourth grade,
fourth grade.
Arkansas.
So that's when you.
Yes. That's when I met. No, I met Carl a year after.
Okay.
This is when I met Seth, Martin. Oh God, I
Hmm.
hate even saying that name out loud. Um, Brent Colin, Morgan Williams. Like we all went to elementary together. That's how long I had known them. Some of
Okay.
them. We lost contact in middle school because we didn't go to the same
So
middle
they're
school.
just some of our high school classmates,
Yeah.
but Carl
I
is,
met Carl the year after
yeah, he's
in fifth
another
grade.
basically brother of mine, of ours.
Yes.
But I'm gonna have him on the show because he also has a pretty interesting life, and he's made like he's somebody I'm just really proud of with like the guy he's become, and I think his path to success is one that I think a lot of people don't recognize. But yeah,
So, um, I got fourth grade was probably my worst year of just reckless behavior. I spent more time in school suspension than I did in the actual classroom.
oh wow, why?
Um,
What was
it
is there a
just
repeating theme of what?
just I was just getting in trouble for all kinds of stuff. I got in trouble for doing this one kid's AR reading test because they said if he didn't get enough points, they were gonna put him in remedial classes, and we were like best friends at the time. And so he asked me to help him or whatever, so I did a test on Harry Potter. Only reason we got caught is because the reading teacher knew what his reading level was. And so
Hmm.
she was like, yeah, I don't think he actually read this book. And then old boy snitched on me and I was like, it'd be your own people.
Actually,
So I spent
that kind of highlights the point because you're Sam is a smart guy. He's a really smart guy, but
debatable.
you're a smart dude. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. Um, but it seems like you just kind of had like some behavioral issues.
Oh, as a kid, before middle school, I was reckless. I didn't care.
Yeah.
It was it nothing mattered. The time that I got suspended by that point for that particular situation, they made up a new suspension rule for me specifically. They called it ABC suspension. I don't know why. I don't even know what that reference to.
And that,
But basically,
folks, is how
I
you
was
become a legend. That's how you become enshrined in myth.
they actually got to the point where they were tired of me being in school suspension and suspended me without a school suspension until a parent or guardian could come to the school and have a discussion with them. So I was suspended maybe like 7 or 8 days or something like school days because no one could come up to the school.
Oh wow! And
And
who
so
are you
I'm
living
just
with at the time?
at that time I'm with my eldest brother and my sister. This is before my sister moved away from us.
Okay,
Um, so
but
when
you
we
guys
moved
are
back to
in Little
Charlotte,
Rock.
yeah, we're in Little Rock.
Okay,
We stayed right next to that might be why I got called ABC. We stayed right next to Arkansas Baptist College,
okay.
and I do mean right next to it. I could throw a rock and hit the daycare that
Wow,
they
so
have
we were
there.
actually living pretty close to each other. Didn't even know
Probably.
it.
So, um, so at that time, I got suspended for all kinds of days. And that was just fourth grade. Fifth grade, at the end of fourth grade, again, my eldest brother, and my sister got into an argument. This time over um, over the check again. And he basically told my sister that he would, and this gets graphic. Viewers don't go snitching or nothing, I hope. Um, Basically told her she was pregnant at the time, and told her that he would kill her and her baby,
Oh my gosh.
for the check or whatever. And it was like, in my mind at the time when I got told this entire story,
Yeah.
I was like, bro, it's not that serious. But I mean, I guess for them it was. So she packed up her stuff and she left.
What was
And
your, I guess, sorry to interrupt you, but just what
you're
was
fine.
your sort of emotional response to like hearing that? Or did
To
you kind of
hearing
know
that
what was going on at the time? Or
at that
did you
time,
find
no,
Oh, okay.
I didn't find out until I went to Vegas the first time to see my sister. So that was
That
college,
was in
spring
college.
break,
Yeah. Okay.
junior year, somewhere in there. That I actually got the full story. I never knew why she left. At that time, I just thought, okay, she's leaving. Um, it for me that was just basically my normal. People walk in my life and people leave. That no one had any consistency to my in my life at that time.
Yeah.
Um, and so I knew at a young age that it was always instilled in me at a young age. Get your education, go to college. Well, the college part is actually a different story. Get your education, get a job. That was it. That's all
Who
I ever knew. So
who instilled that in you? Was it
that
your
was just
brothers and
them.
sisters?
Yeah, they were just like, go to school, get your education, get a job. At that time, that's all I knew was, okay, at least I got to keep going to school.
Okay.
Um, and so that's all I ever knew was and that's why me getting suspended at that time for that long was such a big deal, was because I'd missed so much critical school. Um, at that point, I can't even tell you what we were working on at that time. That's how long I was in suspension. Um, they they'd throw me. This is about this time. They'd also throw me into gifted and talented courses. So
Mm-hmm.
um, to try and just get me. The issue wasn't that I wasn't knowledgeable or anything. I just didn't care. And I just didn't care about academics from an early age. I was going to school because I was told to, and just, I mean, fourth grade, you think, okay, maybe, that's a child. I'm like 10, 11 years old. No, didn't matter.
Yeah.
Did not matter at all. Um, so the next year, after my sister leaves, from hindsight, I'm assuming she was the major breadwinner in the house because we got homeless. Um, we ended up befriending some woman who was friends with my sister-in-law, and she was on Section 8 living, and they had extra space in the Section 8 home that they were in,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up living together, uh, and lived there for a while, with with them. Uh, Soon after, we got our own place through help with the Helping Hand and some other organizations in Little Rock that assist for those types of things. With my sister-in-law, she was the one that was doing all of that. I think my brother was like dodging something or something or another. I don't know. Probably student loans. That
Yeah, it sounds
sounds
like
about right.
there's a
He was
certain amount
dodging
of
something.
mystery that's surrounding
Yeah.
him that even
Um,
now you probably don't even know about.
I have zero idea, and I don't really care to ask him in
Sure.
today's age, just due to the fact that it's happened, it's done, it's over with. He's 50, so however
Yeah.
he decided to live his life is on him. Um, so at this time, that's about roughly when I met Carl. We moved over to uh, 36th Street and
Mm-hmm.
36 and Foster. I start going to school at Romine, and that's when I met Carl. I was some lengthy, nerdy, dirty kid, um, and I was super new to the school. My first couple of days, a lot of the kids were actually making fun of myself and Carl, and I think that's honestly how we ended up becoming friends. Was people were making fun of us, and we just stuck together.
Yeah. This is fifth
Um,
grade.
yeah, that's
Okay.
fifth grade. Um, got suspended one time in fifth grade. I think that was the last time uh, up until high school that I got suspended. Actually, somebody was or some guys that were talking about Carl and talking about wanting to jump him. Of course, I never told Carl the full story. Um,
This is going to be his first time
Probably
hearing this.
him listening to this would be the first time he heard it. Um, so they were talking about wanting to jump him in the bathroom for absolutely zero reason. And so I ended up intervening and just told, I believe I told him, don't worry about going to the bathroom, just go later or whatever, and I'd meet him. I'd catch up with him. It was supposed to be during lunch. And so I ended up meeting the four guys in the bathroom and ended up fighting all four of them.
Did you win?
Um, I can't say that I won, but I can't say that I lost either.
You gave him a fight. Yeah, okay.
I
Yeah.
gave him a decent. I remember getting. I put one in a stall. I put one in a urinal, and then by that point, uh, do you remember Anthony Hobbs, basketball player that
Hobbs.
passed away at Parkview?
Yeah.
His dad was the assistant principal, and that's how I knew Anthony and his dad. His dad is the one that suspended me um, at that time. So, in order to avoid Carl getting fought, having to fight or anything, I kind of intervened and did what I could.
It seems to be a
He
recurring
never knew
theme
it.
where
Uh,
you make friends with somebody close. No, no, I don't mean like
yeah,
you fighting, but like you make friends with somebody close, and then like
I do everything in my
they're
power.
family to you. You know,
Yes.
people who
For
I
me,
guess
that's
that's kind of how you express your loyalty.
that. Looking back in hindsight, that is a lot of how I got to be where I am.
Hmm.
Is being able to make those friendships, being able to make those attachments with people. But not only that, I didn't have that family basis. I didn't have the normal family home that everyone's accustomed to with
Right.
the mom, the dad, and siblings if you were blessed to have them or not. Um, my family household structure was broken, shattered.
It was
It
non-existent,
it meant
pretty
nothing.
much.
It was me, and I was taking care of my younger nieces, like,
Yeah.
and that I never really got to feel like I was a kid for a good long while, even up to third grade. I got in trouble one day because I walked my niece to kindergarten and walked off school campus to go meet my other friend who stayed within walking distance. He had just moved, and the crossing lady. At that time, kindergarten was a half day for kindergartners in California, and the crossing lady saw. So when my sister-in-law came to pick up my niece, um, the crossing lady told her, and I got in trouble when I got home because I didn't go directly to school.
Mm.
But it's always been, for the most part, I always find good friends, like good people, befriend them, and then you either get elevated to, family position, or you remain an acquaintance,
Right.
basically. Um, I like to feel like I've done a pretty good job of building my support system around me.
Yeah.
Carl was an integral part of that foundation. The things Carl and I did up to that point, man.
I'm gonna
Again,
have to
I
have
was
both of y'all
a reckless
on
kid.
at some
Yes, you
point,
would
just so
definitely
we
have
can
to.
have like a chill session where we just hear about the
Most of the stories will involve me doing something crazy and Carl like, what the, and
yeah,
take like, and we, that was it. It was just like I was dragging Carl around for the ride, but it was, again, in hindsight, it was still pretty fun.
yeah,
Um, but Carl's mom, I treated Carl's mom much like I do your mom.
yeah,
I met her and immediately she was mom,
yeah.
and that was it. Um, she took me in as if I was Carl. Carl and I used to have sleepovers all the time for absolutely no reason. He was walking distance from me uh, at that time, and so we would traverse the neighborhood. And this is John Barrow we're talking about, and we're kids, like,
Yeah.
so I'm
Everybody in Little Rock is like, "Oh, John Barrow." Oh.
everyone in Little Rock would know, but we're like sitting there traversing up and down John Barrow like
Yeah.
on a regular basis, just, I mean, going to gas stations or sometimes doing ignorant things because I guess I just had an inkling. Like it was just bad sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's up to fifth grade. Sixth grade is when I don't know if it just like a switch flipped in me that allowed me to be more mature or something. But by that point, I just stopped playing games and I was like, all right, I'm in school now. I gotta do what I'm supposed to do. I'm older.
Yeah.
I have things that I have to accomplish.
So you
And
and Carl were
so,
at Henderson, right?
yeah.
Okay.
hmm
So I went to a
Um,
different middle school. I hadn't met Sound by this point. Um,
right. Mr. Overachiever. Not really.
That's
Where'd you
we will talk
Where'd
to
you go?
my
Was it
Forest Heights.
Dunbar or
No,
oh,
Forest
Forest?
Heights.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll talk about that on another episode because that you walk in there a
Traumatic
kid, you come
experience.
out a man. I got a couple friends. We
Came out with a full beard,
man, I look
benching
like
225 just
people's
because.
people. If you say Forest and Heights in the same sentence, I start getting Vietnam flashbacks. It was yeah,
Um. So Henderson, we're starting school,
hmm
and it was just normal school. We were that was probably the most stable I had been with my brother.
yeah.
Was the 3 years of middle school. In the entire time I'd been under his custody. I think we stayed in the same place the whole time. We were there from fifth grade until freshman year of high school. We were in the same house,
hmm
and so that was probably the most consistent stability and security that I had. Um, so there's not a whole lot. Oh no, there is one pretty big topic in middle school.
What's up?
Um, one of my teachers. I don't know the difference between rape and molestation, but yeah, basically touched me
Oh, I
inappropriately.
remember you talking about
Uh,
this.
yeah,
Yeah, what? How
so
old were you when that happened?
that was eighth grade.
Eighth grade. So
Yeah,
you're 13 or
somewhere in there.
14.
Yeah, somewhere in there. That's toward the end of, us living in the same place or whatever.
Yeah,
And we get to moving on and we're homeless again. Um,
in eighth grade.
during this home, yes, in eighth grade.
hmm
And again, there's still six of us, so it's like, okay, well, they ended up going to the Ritz Motel. At that time, I was like, man, I don't want to be there with you guys. I'm gonna try and find another place to stay so that you guys have space.
Yeah, even
And so
at
I
this young of an age, you were pretty much like, I'm just gonna figure out my
go out
own
on my
way
own.
for living.
Yeah. And so I ended up talking to one of the teachers. The teacher said I can go and stay with her. She had a daughter and everything, so it was cool. Like I didn't think anything of it. One particular day, uh, evening, things got a little hot and heavy, I guess. Um, almost literally, because body heat, and I'm a weak, scrawny dude, so of course heavy. Um, eighth grade, I probably was, man, 5'2", 5'3", maybe 70 pounds, 80 pounds. I wasn't a big dude at all
Would you
at
say
that
you were
time.
malnourished?
I say I was malnourished, man. Most of what I was like, most of my struggle between those times was mostly what am I going to eat next? Like I was more worried about survival than I was about
hmm
school by that point. It got a lot worse in high school, but at that point it was just like, man, they fed me. I had free lunch, breakfast and lunch at school or whatever, but let's be honest, for a growing kid, with the metabolism that I had and
Yeah.
the metabolism
Yeah.
you've seen
Now,
me consume
just
food. There was nothing keeping me, there was no sustenance. There were a lot of people up to that point that if they got you know, wind of my story or whatever, they tried to help out and they would have snacks around and stuff like that. And so I'm forever grateful for those people. Um, this teacher being one of them. Uh, teacher one night had a good time, I guess. Looking back in hindsight, sure I could have, said something or done something, but the
yeah.
problem being was when I did say something, uh, the very statement that my brother gave me was, okay, we're gonna go talk to her because if she wants to do that again, she's gonna have to pay me.
Man, and also
So
like you're you're a
I'm
kid.
a
It
kid.
shouldn't be on you to provide those things. You
I am a child,
man.
and so I basically that at that point I lost a ton of respect for my household.
Yeah. So
He
you're
was
just kind
basically
of
willing to
done
pimp
with
me
it.
off for money. Yeah,
You're kind of
and
done with it
so
afterwards.
um, at that point I was like, all right, cool, whatever. Ninth grade comes along, and I get into Parkview.
Yeah.
I
Hang on
got
real
into
quick.
Parkview. Yep.
I need to use the bathroom. I've been drinking coffee. Give me 1 minute, because I wanna make sure I don't have to interrupt you while when we get to high school, because I feel like this is where a lot of stuff
Oh
starts
man,
hitting the fan.
it gets heavy.
Yeah. So give me 1 minute. Just talk to the audience about whatever.
Talk to the audience about whatever. All right. Let's see. One of my most fond memories of Josh almost certainly has to be when I went to his house and we were just doing a LAN party. So I legit just sat in his living room. I would bring my game system over and would sit in his living room and we would play the same game together in the same house. This particular time I think was the first time I called his mom, and just gave me some crazy look. She was like, "Oh, okay, well that's my son now," um, and to this day it's still been really hilarious. Like we sat down to play the game and I immediately went to the pantry and took out as many snacks as I possibly could. His mom knew that I was coming over, so she bought more snacks because I mean I was a garbage disposal worth of stomach at that time. So we had like granola bars and a couple of snack cakes because Josh didn't really like snack cakes at that time, but granola bars were his thing. And I'm just sitting there in the living room with all the snacks possible. She walks out, looks at me like, "What's going on here?" Looks at Josh. Josh shrugs his shoulders like, and we're just still playing this game. I don't remember if we were playing Halo or it was that Xbox season or was that PlayStation season? I'm not sure.
Okay.
Anyway, he's
All
back now.
right. Sorry about that. I woke up at like 9:30, which is later than I usually wake up, and I felt all groggy. I had to get me some coffee on the going.
Oh man, I should have got up to go get some coffee. My apartment complex now has a coffee maker in there, like an espresso type huge machine.
Was it the one that's in like the other building that we went to?
Yeah, they actually added another one. They added a Keurig in there now too.
Oh, okay.
So big money, I guess. I don't know.
All right, so let's see. Let's actually just do a quick recap because I feel like even now there's some things that we can start taking away from your life just on a macroscopic level, and that's you've moved around probably like 5 times, three
By
different
this point,
states.
I've actually lived in by high school I lived in 12 different states. So I've only
12 different
mentioned
states.
yeah, I've
Okay,
only mentioned
like the big moves.
Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Charlotte, back to North Carolina, and Arkansas. There were
Hmm.
stops in Florida. There were stops in Oklahoma, uh, Texas for a brief moment,
Yeah, you've done
Nevada.
that.
Yeah,
You've
so there were all
shuffled.
kinds of stuff.
You've been shuffled from your sister to your brother. There's this whole thing going with
Often.
them. You're definitely not civil. It's you guys are poor and
Hmm.
struggling for food, and you've even been homeless. And at this point, you're like entering ninth grade. I remember entering ninth
Yeah.
grade. Like I, I can't even compare my situation to what you had gone through. It makes, and I'm not even gonna say like the household I grew up wasn't a blessing, but it just really puts in perspective, like honestly how good I had it, and this has given me some insight into like how bad it can get for some people, and
That's one of the things that kept me pretty good was the silver lining of knowing that um, somebody had it worse, which is a
yeah.
terrible thought to have when you're that low. It's like, yo, there's somebody out there worse than me, and you're that far in the gutter, and it's
but
like,
but I
jeez.
imagine when you are that low, like like um any amount of positivity or silver lining, whatever motivation you can grasp onto, you're going to,
I
no
had
matter
to.
what the
I didn't have a
morals
choice.
are, almost. You couldn't afford to sort of.
I was I couldn't afford to make the same mistakes of my brother and my sister.
Right.
That was my motivation. By the time that I got to middle school, my motivation for school was, and I'm pretty sure this is probably what my turning point was for to stop being reckless and just start paying attention.
Hmm.
My biggest motivator at that time, as well as present, is do not end up like my siblings.
Yeah.
That is what motivates me to, oftentimes, to do more.
Hmm.
That
And
nothing
not
is
just for
enough because I've
yourself,
seen
but
them.
you're
I
for
have,
other people.
yeah, there are a lot of people. I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and this is beside the point, of course, but talking to
Oh, that's
her,
fine.
and she knows well of my situation. She's
Hmm.
the girlfriend who the backpack was belonging
Voted
to at the
for.
time. Yeah. Um, I was talking to her and basically just let it all out there and was like, no, I don't know another person in my circle that has both the positive circle, like the positive support, but at the same time feels the pressure of having to succeed
Yeah.
because all of those people are external. They're not my biological family. They have
Yeah.
nothing. They don't have to want anything for me, and yet they do.
Well, I
I
think
don't.
part of that is
Go
because
ahead.
like when you have this sort of external family, as you call it, you have to
Hmm.
work to keep that together, as
Yes.
opposed to internal family where it's like there's almost like a underlying obligation for it. Which hopefully
Yeah.
that's not all that makes up the relationships, but it's still
Who
there.
knows?
Yeah.
Family is family. But for this particular instance, it's just like I always feel pressured to succeed.
Right.
That all these people are looking for me to succeed because it's gonna be one slip up before they're just some of them could just be like, well, I know it was coming, or I told you so, or anything to that nature. And so it's just like I don't want to be that the kid that they were like had hopes for and had all these who had all this great potential and
Mm-hmm.
then let it go to waste while they were in my corner.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want them to feel bad that they were supporting me or a child that came from my background.
Right. That's quite a
Uh,
bit of pressure to have at such a young age.
there was a study about it. Um, Mama Stewart told me about it long, long ago. Basically, of the resilient child,
Mm-hmm.
a child that comes from a low-income, high-risk background and is, in spite of all of the adversities that they face, are still capable of making it in society, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, whoever defined that.
If you can find this
Because
study, I'll put it. I've always wanted to say this, but I'll put a link in the description.
here we are. I do
Yeah.
believe that that means you've made it at this point.
But yeah, no, I think that'll be some interesting supplemental material for this podcast because that's kind of really what we're getting at is people come from sort of these turbulent households and make the decision to sort of turn their lives around or shift the trajectory of their family.
Right.
My dad's always saying like, if you come from a family that's constantly like messing up or just not fulfilling their full potential for whatever reason, there's always somebody in that family who has to have a mentality change of like, I'm not going to continue this. And it seems like for you, at least whatever trajectory your family's been on towards you've kind of made the shift already in middle school.
Yeah, somewhere. Something, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And I'm not
Um,
trying to talk bad about your family. I'm just
oh, no.
I'm
Man,
just
go
I'm just
say
trying
what you
to
will. I'd talk
frame
bad about them to their faces. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I have zero. It it makes me upset sometimes that I have to take that stance. But if no one else will be real with them, someone has to be. And
yeah.
if that person has to be me, so be it.
That's another thing
Um,
I really appreciate about you because you are a very real person because you don't you don't like to deal with shit. You don't like to deal with people's shit if they're not there's not some good reason behind it.
it is hard because mostly because, and this is a terrible mindset to have for this, but because of my background, because of the things that I went through, I can't believe that, or not that I can't believe, I refuse to believe that a person can't get out of the situation that they're in. Granted, not everyone has the same mentality that I had. Not everyone has the same resources that I was given. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a little harder for others than it would have been for me, or
Yeah.
vice versa. Or it's harder for me than it would be for some others. But I fully believe that if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to make the excuse that your current circumstance is what's stopping you from the current view of your goal of where you want to be, and you're willing to accept that excuse exists and are willing to remain stagnant
Yeah.
because of that excuse, then I can't support you.
Or not even like your current position, but even like your previous
Right.
experiences and stuff.
That if there are times that my past has hindered a lot of things that I would like to do, it's crippled me in a lot of different things. However, being resilient and stubborn and hard-headed, those aren't the best of qualities all the time.
Yeah.
But in this particular instance, it helped propel me to success, quote unquote. I actually did air quotes like you can see them. Um, so I guess if high school is where I can give you a great depiction of the opposite sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Um, because again, I'm living with my nieces, and everything.
Hmm.
And Precious and I are the same age. We're dealing with the same stuff in the exact same household, and her story now has is completely different.
Have you guys sort of
Um,
gone in opposite directions?
Super opposite directions. Precious never graduated high school.
Oh
She
wow.
never officially graduated high school. In ninth grade, okay, so here's how early the deviation started between Precious and I.
Hmm.
Was seventh grade, because in sixth grade they wouldn't allow my brother to put me in algebra one, and this is exactly where we had actually just stopped off on the story. Um, they wouldn't allow my brother to put me in advanced math. So seventh grade comes along and he's like, I don't care what you guys are saying, put Sam and Precious in algebra one. And so they forced us into the class. Precious and I have the same class, same teacher, same class period.
Hmm.
Precious failed algebra one. All she had to, if nothing else, she could have just cheated off of me.
Yeah.
Same household, same class, sat next to each other. Like, easily could have just cheated and been like, okay, well, at least I passed the class. Sure, I didn't pass the end of course exam. Um,
So here we kind of have two people who literally grew up in like the same household,
Same
experiencing the
household.
same thing, same age, same everything, pretty much. But
Yep.
for whatever reason, you had this sort of mentality, and I'm not trying to talk bad about her, but like you sort of made this decision to like, hey, I'm gonna pass this class. I need to.
Yep.
Where she
I mean, she was trying. It seemed like
she's
she was trying to
trying.
get it on her own, but
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't using her resources that were right there in front of her,
Hmm.
literally right there. It's like
Yeah.
we live together. I'm doing the homework. I can show you. So she fails algebra one. She has to retake algebra one, eighth grade. I get forced into algebra two, and this is the year before they started forcing the end of course exam on algebra two. I'm so thankful I kept missing that. So after
We really
algebra,
did. I feel like yeah,
yes,
our particular year just really rolled the wave of those end of year
I
exams. It's like
just
after
missed.
us,
I
like
missed
didn't
all
they
of them.
just
They
they
forced
started
everything on everyone.
we
So algebra one had the end of course exam already, and I was fine with that. I was like, okay, cool. It's just another standardized test. Algebra isn't hard.
yeah.
Algebra two was like, man, this is crazy. Like this, I don't. It was different because I'm eighth grade at that time.
Yeah.
So algebra two is the sole reason I got into Parkview,
Oh really? Why is
because
that?
getting into Parkview. So I'm not sure if you remember this, but you had to pick your high school at that time. Um,
Yeah.
you had you had the option to basically, like college, like you could apply to the high schools like they were college. If you didn't get into the high school that you applied to, they sent you to
The
your
neighborhood
neighborhood
school.
college. Yes,
Man, you know what my
my
neighborhood
neighborhood
school
school
was?
at that time was Fair.
Mine was Hall.
Right. So we were both sitting there at the bottom rung of
Man.
stuff. Um,
Yeah, because Parkview, it's a arts and science magnet school.
and,
So magnet in the sense that you had different sides. There was
yep.
science, drama, visual arts, and some
They have
music or
music,
something
yeah,
else. I don't know.
music, theater, well, music, drama, dance.
They did have a dance
S
side, yeah.
hmm
Drama,
Thank
yeah.
God for that.
Uh,
Sorry.
yeah. So Sam and I were both on the science side.
Yes.
Uh,
So to
mhm.
get into Parkview on the science side, you had to have a C in Algebra 1 going into ninth grade. I was already in Algebra 2.
Oh, okay. So that
So
puts you
I
ahead of the
was a
curve.
shoo-in.
Yeah.
Like there was never a question on whether I was going to get in. Mr. Fuller. I've always made the mistake of calling him Dr. Fuller.
Yeah. Did you interview with him as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so
And
same
so
here. I still remember.
I had
I was
my
just, I
I
was
had
just
my
talking
interview
about
with
planes the
him.
entire time.
I wasn't even talking about, I don't even remember what we were talking about. By that point, I don't even think we had a full conversation. because, like I said, I had an A in Algebra 2 at the time,
Mm,
and there was no end of course exam, so I didn't have to test to get out of Algebra 2. I just had to pass the class
yeah.
to get out of middle school, and so I was basically a shoo-in to get in.
Yeah.
Um, I still don't know how Precious got in because she didn't get in on the science. I think she got in on dance maybe, but she couldn't dance. It
Hmm.
was I don't remember how she got in, but she ended up getting forced in.
I don't
Um,
remember her in
you
high
wouldn't. She left
school.
freshman year.
She left freshman year? Okay.
Yeah. So freshman year,
Real quick, I just want to say, like, I think for you and I both, we kind of, Parkview really helped us uh, in sort of different ways, but also in sort of the same way in that it really did provide, like, students who came from troubled households, or perhaps students who, like, I guess in my case, just were waiting to have their potential unleashed to an extent by taking advantage of the resources there. It really provided us like sort of with an outlet and like a level, a leveling of the playing field, to some extent with like the resources that it
you have no idea.
had.
Um,
But yeah, so
so we get to ninth grade and just hint you to this detail. Precious failed Algebra 1 again in 8th grade. So
oh
she had to
wow,
take it again in ninth grade. So this is the third iteration, and she has Mr. Wilson.
what side was she on?
I think it was dance. I want to say it was dance.
Okay,
couldn't actually tell you.
yeah.
We didn't make it far enough for her to like go
Oh,
into her
dude,
project or
yeah.
anything. So at this point, I'm living in Southwest.
Mm-hmm. Who are you living with at this time? Is it still with your
Still,
brother?
it's brother. Yeah,
Okay.
my sister never came back. At this point, I'm just staying with my brother.
I couldn't remember if this was like
Up
when you started living
until
with Carl.
that happened end of sophomore year
Okay.
ish. Um, so I couldn't bother Carl on that one, and I'll get into that when we get to sophomore year.
Sure.
So freshman year, Precious is failing Algebra 1 for the third time, doesn't like school, and is starting to find herself in her sexuality. And
Oh.
basically, long story short, starts hoeing. Um, Girl thinks she's pregnant like 2 or 3 different times. Brother isn't having it, so they ended up sending her to Atlanta with my sister. She does the same stuff with my sister apparently, and got kicked out of Atlanta, but that's neither here nor there.
Sure.
Um,
We don't have to delve into her story.
I don't, yeah, I don't know her story, so I couldn't tell you.
Sure.
And there's no point in
But
her
bottom
ever
line, it's
popping
like
up on this
you kind of stuck with
podcast.
school, and then your niece, who's basically like your sister or cousin or
Yep.
whatever, she kind of went on trajectory and she kind of left the
Oh, it
academic
was
world altogether.
free fall,
Yeah.
just terminal velocity, just blew it all up. Never goes back to high school. In fact, came back to visit when we in our senior year. After she's had her, I think she had her twins by that point. She's like, "Oh, y'all so like we were looking for stuff for prom and everything, and this is when Kenya and I are getting ready for prom,
Hmm.
and well, all of us really." And she's like, "Oh, y'all are so cute. I remember when I was like this," and I was like, "Woman, we the same age. What are you talking about? If you didn't drop out, you would be right here with us. Like,
Yeah.
you're not any older than me, and you're definitely not more mature than I am. Like, anyway, so
Yeah.
that
But
irritated me.
you're in high
Um,
school.
yeah, high
You're in
school.
ninth grade.
So ninth grade, ninth grade was my try hard years. Was my try hard year.
What
I got
in what sense?
4.0s. I got 4.0s that year.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and then I hit a smooth plummet. It wasn't even like
Hmm.
a negative slope or nothing like that. Like it wasn't negative y equals mx plus b or anything. It was legit y equals x, y equals negative x, and just gone.
At this
Like
time, had we met?
I
Did we
again,
meet
I can't
really?
place us in high school, but
Okay.
I'm
Still, I
I'm
only have that
certain.
first memory of us.
Yeah.
So,
So I can't place anyone outside of Ernest, Brandon, and Carl freshman year.
because you had met them
I
in
knew
middle school,
Ernest in middle school. Yeah, Ernest and Brandon were in middle school.
right?
Any
So
new
they're
friends?
another friend, some friends of ours in Wolfpack who we still keep in contact with. We're just talking with a couple of them, or at least one of them, like an
Yeah.
hour ago.
So, I can't really place any of the rest of the friendships. You guys just all popped up over the course of high school, and it was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna assume I met everyone at the first day of high school.
Yeah.
So,
Might as well.
it's just easier that way.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm getting 4.0s, but I'm bouncing around a lot at this point at
Hmm.
freshman year of high school. Um,
Just around different
so
houses,
motels, houses,
motels.
motels, whatever.
Yeah.
And at this time, I'm pretty much sticking around with them just because I'm a freshman and I got more things to do on my
Yeah.
plate.
Must have been pretty
Uh,
difficult to keep up those grades. So like,
it was
just.
exceptionally difficult.
Uh huh.
Oh, I take that back. I didn't get 4.0s. I got a 4.0 my first semester. My second semester, I did not. I failed civics. The second semester of physics, not
Hmm.
physics, civics,
Civics.
with Miss Daniel.
I understand you.
I'd I'd love to blame it on her smoke breaks and everything, but of course it wasn't her fault that I wasn't doing the work. Um,
Did we have
reason I
civics
failed,
together? Do
I
you
don't.
remember?
Nope, couldn't tell you.
Was Brandon in your class?
Also, couldn't tell you.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I
This
remember Brandon and Ernest were in my class.
this is still pre super skipping Sam, but
I see.
not. I I was not above just not paying attention. I didn't do her project that was supposed to go on some poster board or something like that, and that gave me enough points worth of a zero
Mm,
to
to fail.
plummet my grade
Yeah.
to fail. And so, failed that class. I was supposed to retake it. Well, I don't remember how they set it up to retake, but they ended up setting me up to retake some of my stuff on NovaNet and some of my stuff in actual class.
Uh huh.
Um, Pre-cal was one of those that they set me up in actual class, which was like, how did you let me get to Cal 2 and I failed a semester of pre-calculus? Like, so um, I was in pre-cal and Cal 2 at the same time, my senior year or our senior year. Amazing. Um, Anywho, so this is freshman year, and this is after talking to Miss Harrington over the summer when I went to my family reunion in
Hmm. So Miss
Orlando this
Harrington,
summer.
sorry, English teacher, and
Yes,
mythology. I never took
yes.
that class with her. That's one of my biggest
Mythology was
regrets.
great.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Learning
It was
about
it was great.
you know
I had her
love.
for monitoring and mythology back to
Hmm.
back. So I was just with her like half a day
Yeah, she was an awesome
junior year.
teacher.
So after talking to her, this is what I gathered from freshman year from you guys' perspective of what was going on. They had no idea because I wasn't telling at that point. I wasn't as open with all of this information as I
Yeah,
currently am now. So she and other teachers around were picking up the different stories that I would tell each teacher. And apparently I didn't tell a single teacher the same thing.
but they started piecing it together.
Funny thing, they didn't piece it together until basically junior year.
Hmm.
So everyone's getting these pieces and they're all just like, okay, well, Sam's just, Sam. But then you guys' stories of me and what was going on also started populating them at the same time as
I
well.
see.
And so over freshman year, they got a little bit. Over sophomore year, that's when things got the heaviest. The entire year of sophomore year, I was homeless. I was
Wow.
staying at Canis Park, the
What?
park with the basketball court under the freeway bridge,
How did
which
you
I think is honestly
survive?
pretty dangerous. Um, Geometry, walking to school. I could tell what time it was at that time based off of shadow casting. Um,
But you were.
so
How did you end up homeless though? You just.
they moved back to the uh, motel. My family moved back to the
Hmm.
motel, and that's the summer that I hit a crazy growth spurt. So every time we ended up staying in the Ritz Motel, I took the bathtub so that the girls could have the bed.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
so that's how we ended up sleeping. I was 5'2" freshman year. I was 5'10" sophomore year.
Wow.
So I grew 8 inches in like 3 months, and it felt like death. Everything hurt all the time. Legs were on fire. It actually caused me a pretty decent deal of issues now. It caused me, because I was such an active kid during that growth spurt, a lot of the activities I did for athletics wasn't because I was an athletic kid. It was because the less time I had to spend at home, quote unquote, the less I had to focus on anything else. I didn't have to focus on survival while I was out playing sports.
Where would you
So,
shower and?
the field house had showers. If I couldn't catch it there, then there were like truck stops I could find, relatively, or hoe
How
baths.
did you have any money? Job? Like what? What?
I
Holy! Oh my
I
gosh!
didn't have a job, but I was getting money. I don't know if this gets people in trouble later by telling this truth. There were people at the school that once they found out, they did what they could,
Yeah, you don't
and
have to state
basically,
any names.
they basically took money from the booster club and put it in my pocket over the course of the year. Um, and so technically, that would mean that anything that I did playing college ball is now null and void. Not that I did a whole lot anyway, um, because I was accepting money of any sort before uh, I declared my amateurism,
Yeah.
for the NCAA. So they were putting, and that's how I was paying my phone bill, or how I would have money for the weekends for eating or whatever. They would put $20 or $40 in my pocket, and that's how I survived for the weekend. And then, of course, Monday through Friday, I had the meals at school, um, and that's what was getting me by for the most part. Um, The reason being, typically when some of these things happen, I would be able to stay with Carl for a week or two, and that's pretty much what would happen from eighth grade and ninth grade. But I believe sophomore year is the year that his mom passed away,
Mm,
and so
yeah.
he was staying with his aunt. And so closer toward the end of sophomore year, before I moved in I ended up moving in with him. They took me in for a little while.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll allow Carl to tell the logistics of that story or whatever.
Yeah. That's
Um,
probably the way you guys really bonded together as well.
Heavily.
Cause yeah. Cause I know like yeah, y'all just yeah. I'm gonna have to have both of y'all
we
on
were,
just to kind
yeah.
of discuss.
At this, scariest thing that ever happened to Carl at that point is when he had, is it appendicitis, or I don't think it was like he had to have his gallbladder removed because
Yeah.
something else was going on or whatever in there, and so he was like dry heaving and puking all over the place, and was like, yo, chill, like stop dying. He was like, I can't, and so we take him to the hospital and then find out that he's like his gallbladder's inflamed, and so they just remove it.
Yeah.
They told him to stop eating spicy foods. I've never seen that man stop eating spicy foods.
Yeah.
So, any case,
Those them
um,
wings.
so the entire year of sophomore year, I was homeless, and
Just
that
sort of bouncing
is
around from
when,
spot to spot.
yes, and that is when the teachers got wind of it. That's when Harrington and the rest of them caught how heavy everything was, and that this is exactly how she explained it to me. She was like, "Oh shit, he's on the edge. We have to do something, and we have to do something now."
Yeah.
Um, so that's all of sophomore year. Junior year, after I left Carl, I went back to my brother for a little while.
In the
They
motels
stayed.
or
No, they
where
had
you guys
actually ended
staying?
up getting another house
Okay.
in McDermott, off McDermott, not in McDermott. It's close to Southwest. When you're heading on University towards Southwest,
Yeah.
there's that auto glass shop in Knights Inn or whatever. There was a house back there that we ended up staying off of.
Okay.
Um, pretty cool spot or whatever. It wasn't terrible. So that was junior year, uh, and then things got hectic because they got homeless. We got homeless again, um, and I didn't feel like I could continuously put my pressures on Carl at the time because he was having his own issues with family and stuff like that. So I kind
Hmm.
of just bounced around from friend to friend for a little while,
Yeah, kind
and
of.
that's when
I've
I
always
ended
wanted
up
to
with
ask like why you guys stopped like living together, but this was a conscious decision that you made.
for the most part.
Wow.
At the time that I stopped staying with Carl, he had issues going on and bouts going on between the sides of his family.
Hang on, you got like a
To my
little.
knowledge.
You sound a little muffled there.
Do I? How about now?
That's better.
Okay. At I was moving, like sitting back. My bad.
Okay.
At the time that I made the decision to try not to stay with Carl, and there was one point where I did actually try, and he was like, "Man, I don't actually know." Um, but at the same time, I was like, "You have your own troubles and struggles that you're
Yeah.
going through because of the, internal battles that he was facing with his family and stuff like that,
Right.
and with himself." Um, and so I didn't. I tried to be a as good a friend as possible for him for the things that he was going through, and at the same time trying not to cast all of my issues onto him as well.
Right.
Um, for us, it was a lot of stuff that we had to carry between the two of us of just the things that we were going through,
Yeah.
which is amazing that we were even able to get to this point in life, I suppose. So junior year is when everyone starts finding out what's going on, and I'm a little more open because maybe I'm a little more trustworthy. I couldn't tell you how my mindset had changed by this point. Um, at this point, my grades are closer and closer to trash. I care less and less about school. I'm only caring about survival. Like,
Yeah.
where's my next meal coming from? Where am I laying my head down tonight? And by this point, like I said, the entire school faculty, anyone who cared to care, knew. And this is the time that I start playing football. This is the time that just everything starts mattering to everyone else, and nothing mattered to me. Uh, it was I can't even junior year is a blur. I believe that's the time that I started staying with Stefan and Trayshawn as well.
Okay.
Uh,
And when we met,
Probably
goddamn
by that
bag of
story.
condoms.
So at some point,
Oh man.
it was soccer season, and that's how I ended
Hmm.
up with Stefan and Trayshawn. They heard my story from me talking to Bergeau, and
How
they went home.
how long had you known them by
I
that
had known
point?
of them at that point for, you know, the duration of high school. They
Yeah.
swear up and down that we were the coolest of friends, but I don't remember anything before I lived with them.
I mean,
Um,
shoot, struggling and all that probably took up your mental capacity. Just
it's
working on
something that I've noticed a
survival.
lot more from from what I'm currently going through is that when I go through struggles, I tend to dissociate,
Yeah.
and unless I'm able to associate things together, it won't register to me. So you
Yeah.
could there, for instance, there's a girl here who I'd met and had been networking with or whatever, and she told me her last name, and she's told me her last name 4 times now, but I can never associate her last name with her because I have nothing to associate it with. I don't have an event in my head to associate it with.
Hmm.
So because I can't associate it, I'm just like, I don't care, and
Yeah.
still just moving forward, pushing forward.
Yeah.
Um, and so at that time, I was dissociating a lot from a lot of things, and I'm guessing it was because of a defensive mechanism that if I let someone in, they could also leave me, much like, Oh, that's why
Yeah.
I moved with Stefan and Trayshawn. Junior year is when my brother moved. So the entire time
Out
that
of
I was,
state or
yes.
okay.
So this is where that check becomes a big deal. I didn't find out, I didn't know for certain about it until this point. Um, but I was getting Social Security benefits for all of this time up until that point.
But you
Well, my
weren't seeing
brother
any of that
was.
money.
I had never known. I didn't even know that it had existed.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here wondering. So the check was reduced 1 or 2 times because I got a job the summer before I moved in with Stefan and Trayshawn.
Uh huh.
We ended up working at Shorty. Trayshawn and I ended up working at Shorty Smalls.
Okay.
Um, no, that's going into senior year. So wrong. Um,
So Trishawn and
we ended up.
Stefan are twin brothers, um, who I guess I didn't really like start hanging out with them until, or at least Trishawn until like 2014, and he kind of connected through Sam and Brandon. But yeah, but now we're close friends, and Sam's definitely like they're definitely two of his brothers for real.
Yes,
So I don't know if you want to say any more about that, but I guess we'll explore that right now.
we can explore that. So going into senior year, uh, Was it? Yeah, it had to be right after junior. Maybe. I don't know. I'm mixing my times up. Anyhow, at some point, my brother moves from Little Rock to Kansas City, Missouri,
Okay.
and he's my guardian. So I have to. Yeah, I was going in the junior year. I mean, in the senior year, I had to register for school, but there was no one there to sign me up. So again, people broke some rules to make sure that I could
The 10
get
school.
through. Yeah, because I needed his signatures to attend school, um, and my shot records and stuff. And he had all of that. So he calls me on Labor Day, senior year,
Senior
and
year?
tells me yes, until
Okay.
it had. I'm pretty sure it was senior year, and tells me that he moved or whatever and was making sure I was okay. Mind you, I've had the same number for the better part of as long as we've known each other. I've had the
Yeah.
same phone number. Um, I didn't talk to him for a year. The entire year and a half that I was either with Carl or homeless or something,
Hmm.
or bouncing around with a friend, I hadn't heard from him because his number changed so often. So I never knew how to reach him. So I made sure that my number stayed, the same as much as possible, as much as I possibly could,
Right.
so that I could be reached if necessary. So he calls me, tells me he moved or whatever, and mind you, this entire time that I'm homeless, that I've made the conscious decision to be homeless, he's getting a check. He's getting a check for me living and breathing. No one
Yeah.
knows that,
But you're not saying
where
give
I
me up
am.
this money.
Right. Um, and so when it got reduced, when I finally got a hold of it after he left, uh, I went to the Social Security Administration in Little Rock with Harrington, and they
Hmm.
granted me emancipation, basically. It
So
wasn't like a
now
court
you don't have
ordained one.
to have a guardian anymore.
Not to receive the
Right.
check. I'm allowed to
Okay.
receive the check in my own name because my guardian is no longer with me.
Gotcha.
Um, but by the time I was getting this check, man, I was getting $700 a month. Like maybe eight. Was it 670 or 770? It was somewhere up there. But it's like if that's what I'm getting after they reduced it because I've had a job, and I was told that they reduced it twice. I could see what the last reduction was. The last reduction was from 1200 to the 500,
Yeah.
or not five to the 700.
700. Yeah.
So you subtract the 500 because I started working. So if there was a second reduction between the 1200 and some other number up there,
Yeah.
why were we homeless? Like you're making enough that for what I pay for my rent currently.
Yeah.
So, and I know that this is also Little Rock. It's not like a huge college town or anything. Like housing isn't that expensive. So why are we struggling? At that time, he also, for the first time in my knowing life, had a job. So
Hmm.
ended up losing said job because of a domestic violence dispute that, again, in hindsight, I don't believe was his fault. He got hit over the head with an iron and his head got busted open, but he's the one that went to jail and
Ooh.
he was trying to de-escalate the situation. Yeah,
So still, like, he's
it's
kind of
amazing.
shrouded in mystery. There's
Yes.
this money coming in, but you don't know where it's going, and you're
Right.
not really seeing the fruits of that.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So I have other pieces of that story, but I don't. I'll leave those pieces out just due to the fact of uh, uh, we don't need to right now.
Sure.
We'll just leave it at that. Um, I can tell you offline at some other point.
Okay.
So, um, all of this has happened, and I've been with Stefan and Trayshawn for the better part of junior year. I do
Hmm.
recall living with them for at least two Christmases, um, because I recall having the way their mom did chores. You had chores until she said, you switched or whatever. Um, at some point, I didn't know how to work their dryer. They had just gotten a new one, and so I shrank some of my clothes. And so washing clothes was one of the chores. And so I got booted off of that because I accidentally shrank my stuff because I didn't know how to work this stuff. So I either had to clean the bathroom or do the dishes. And for a year, I was doing the dishes. We didn't switch. I was like, why? And so even on the holidays, I had to clean the dishes for holidays. I was like, dog, there are so many dishes. Why did we cook so much food? Like, we don't even need all of this. I was so upset to have to do that. Like, I thought I was in my mind the second holiday season that came around. I was like, okay, we got to switch switch chores by now. Like I did this last year, so there's no way I got to do it again this year.
I like how
I did
that's
it.
how you like remember.
Yes.
Like that's the event that you associate with Christmas. It's like not you didn't even go to like the presents or like being around
Nah, man. I had to
family.
wash
It
them
was you got to
dishes.
watch the dishes.
I had to wash them dishes. I
Fair
was so
enough.
pissed. I was so pissed. Um, but at this point, I'm getting rebellious again. Less rebellious and more like I'm just sick of the environment I'm in, and so I started getting
Living with
testy.
Trishawn and Stefan.
Trayshawn and stuff on mostly because I had an issue with acceptance, and abandonment,
Hmm.
and uh, it got to the point where I was jealous of them. Honestly, I was jealous of being in the house where knowing that they had their, at least their mom, or they still had their dad for the most part. Like they still had their parents in their lives. They were still getting nice things. As far as I knew, I didn't know about the struggles that they had gone through or were
Yeah.
going through at the time, until well after. But to me, everything seemed honky dory, and I honestly felt like, in some of those instances, they were taking some of those things for granted. I got tired of getting in trouble for my grades. It was like I'm helping them with their homework, and I brought home a 1.8. So
Oh wow.
their mom was pissed. She was so upset because I tried to avoid handing her my report card for like 2 days. I just didn't mention it for like 2 days, uh, and then she was like, "All right, Sam, we're not playing this game. Where's the report card?" So I helped Stefan get through chemistry. I was helping Trayshawn with some of his homework if he ever needed the help or whatever. And then I whip out my report card, and she's like, "Boy, what the?
So how is
How
it
you?"
that like you were helping them out, and I assume they had higher than I don't know what their grades were, but they're higher than a 1.8.
Yes.
Uh,
So I'd
so
helped
why?
them raise GPAs.
What? But what happened to yours? Is it were you
I
just not
wasn't doing my
spending enough
homework.
time? Why?
No,
Why
I
not?
just wasn't doing it. I just didn't care.
Just
I
didn't
just
care.
no, not at all. Like just did not care. If I couldn't do it in class, I wasn't doing it at all. And no one was checking behind me, so I was like, okay, well, I don't. What does it matter? Uh, so we had this is junior year, yeah. You were in Beatty's class with me, weren't you? Physics.
Physics? Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly how things went. Like I would sleep in class, I would wake up, do some of the homework, and I mean I would sleep from bell to bell.
Yeah.
So I would sleep in class, I would do some of the homework in class, either before the first bell rang or like at lunch or something. And if I just didn't finish it, I just didn't finish it.
Yeah.
But I was still passing all the tests with like A's and B's. I knew the material, but the way they weighted grades in high school, you had 100 points for homework and 100 points for the test. I don't do the
Yeah.
homework and I make 100 on a test, I still average a 50.
Right.
It wasn't until, uh, yikes, when was it?
Like I'm saying,
Uh,
folks, Sam is a really smart guy, but
Bilbrey.
just other
Bilbrey was the
factors.
reason. Bilbrey was the reason that I started
Spellberg, what
realizing that
she
things.
taught? I mean, what she
Hmm,
teach? Was it
she
calculus?
was calculus. I still hate
Okay.
that woman. God. Oh my God. It
So
and
she never
I
listens
understand
to
I
this.
understand the struggles I put on her being the type of kid that I was,
Hmm.
and I I I don't regret it. I learned from it, but I could see the stress that I was putting on people in hindsight, like
Yeah.
of just the kind of kid that I was. Because any waking moment by that point that I had to skip her class, I took it. So if there was a substitute teacher and I walked by and saw a sub, I kept walking. Like I didn't even turn the corner to get into the door. I was like, she's not there. Cool, I'm going somewhere else.
You are
Most
something
people
else.
were most people would skip in the gym. Nope, I knew where you wouldn't find
Where'd
me.
you go? Did you go to like Taco
The
Bell up the street?
library. No, I went to the
Wow.
library. No one would think to look for a person where
Not
they could be.
wrong.
They always thought that everyone just skipped in the gym and went to go play basketball. No, I
Yeah.
went to the library and either did homework or surfed the internet for an hour and a half and then got up and left. I'm the reason that you had to start having library passes to go into the library because they found out how much time I was spending in the library and not supposed to be in the library.
The man, the
So
myth, the legend.
I've changed a lot of rules just by being myself, I
Yeah.
suppose.
But this is all
Um,
junior year.
this is all junior year.
Um,
So Bilbrey was the reason I realized the whole point differential because Bilbrey weighted homework by like 10 or 15 points, and then tests were like 70 or 100 points or something like that.
Okay. So you
And
did
so
all
that's
right
when
in
I
her
realized the
class?
discrepancy. No,
No?
the only reason I did all right in Bilbrey's classes were because she kept giving me points.
Yeah, I never understood
She
how she
forcibly
graded
passed me.
stuff.
I couldn't tell
But
you because I to this day don't not to this day because I relearned it in college. I didn't know a
yeah.
derivative. I didn't know how to take the antiderivative of anything. And rates of change, let's not even start on that. Rates of change still give me trouble. dy over dx,
Dude,
God.
I
Like
still like I love calculus so much now. Like I could have a whole podcast over just like
I would love to talk about it, but it's been so long since I've had to use it that I don't remember a lot of it.
yeah.
I
I was
don't.
talking to my sister and cousin of mine over Thanksgiving break, and one of my younger cousins is like 15 or something, and I think he's starting to learn, some more advanced math.
Hmm.
But honestly, believe because I feel like I didn't really get a handle on like calculus until they like I started intertwining it with physics. Because that gives you a whole new realm of like how to understand the math behind it and like what it actually means to like find rates and stuff. Um, as a
My
whole sub like yeah, I could talk a while about it, but
It didn't click for me until college. Like that's
yeah,
when things started making sense to me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I had to take my
Mostly because
I
of
took
how it
calculus
was.
again in college as well. I could have tested out of it, but I figured it'd be better if I just
Same for me.
yeah.
Like I instead of jumping directly into calculus, I took pre-cal and plane trigonometry
I
my
got you.
freshman year, just so that I can get a refresher on like pre-calculus basically.
Yeah.
Um,
But anyway, so like
yeah,
junior
any
year,
cool.
um,
Um,
she
so
passed you, but what
all of
else is
that
going on
happened.
in your life at
Uh,
this point? Because I know at this point we had met each other
yes.
for real, like start having
Um,
some memories for him.
there was the homelessness. There was
Hang on, you're
you
muffled
know,
again.
am I?
A little bit, yeah.
Is it because I'm talking like this?
No, okay,
Because
just
my chin was in my my chin was in my neck for a moment there.
that's probably why.
Okay, well, clearly I can't move. I'm not allowed to move, ladies and
Nope,
gentlemen.
oh, frozen.
Freeze. Oh man, not the freeze part, but like I've been really quoting The Dark Knight a long time. Drop her. Real
Sword of
poor.
me.
It's like let her go. Real poor choice words there.
And
And
here
yeah,
we
we go.
go.
Anyway, so junior year things are kind of haywire. Senior year goes by. Senior year, first half of senior year. Um, Hardeman choked me out in the locker room because he says I quit on the team, and
Oof.
yeah.
Yeah, at that point
So
you started focusing on soccer way more,
yeah,
right? Because you're
a
really
lot.
close to our French teacher, Mr. Burchell, who's the captain
Hmm.
or captain coach.
Coach, yes.
Yeah,
Uh, Soccer is the reason I started playing football. I
I
went out
see.
there BSing one day because they were trying to figure out who the kickers for the next year was going to be,
So you
and
kicking?
I went to go kick the ball a couple of times with them, just
Well,
shooting the
shoot,
shit.
you probably the tallest dude
At that
back
time, I
then.
was 6 feet.
You
No,
got to
I
be
was
more
five
than six
eleven.
feet,
At
man.
in high school, no, I was 5'11" when I tried out.
Okay,
I graduated high school 6 feet tall,
okay.
6 feet 140.
Um,
I graduated college 6'2", 180.
hmm.
And then I'm now 6'3", 220, 225. I wish I could have been this size in high school. I would have done more with my
I
life
don't know if
athletically.
one high schooler should have all that power.
I mean, you remember Michael Johnson? He had all that power.
Okay, that man is on a different. I still don't believe he was. That man
Positive.
was an
He had to be
NFL
on some
player in
roids.
ninth grade.
I'm telling that man was too big to be him and between him and Jamal Ursary,
And Jamal.
those two. Because Jamal Ursary came to high school with a full beard, and it was like,
Yeah,
dude, we 13, 14 years old. Where did you get this beard from? Like,
yeah. They're
kind of,
awesome though. They're definitely
they're
awesome. I haven't
still
talked
great
to.
people.
I haven't talked to Jamal since high school, but I enjoy seeing
Um,
Mike Johnson's updates on Facebook.
I just want him to realize how to take a selfie. It's like your chin doesn't have to be that high, man. Like, just move the phone up. You don't have to put your chin
Oh
up there
man,
too. It's a real strong chin.
All right. But
Any
anyway, yeah,
case,
senior year.
senior
I mean,
year,
we're hanging out like I'm gonna say we're
we're hanging.
full time best friends by this
Yes,
point.
by this point, we're hanging out. We're
But
doing.
you were
We
there
have the
during
wolf pack.
the weekend of Seven Nukes, Modern Warfare
Yes,
2, right? Yeah.
I was around. I wasn't playing. I don't think I was playing with you guys, but I was around to hear about it.
Yeah.
Um, good old times.
Good old days.
I
Yeah.
was I was there for. Were you there with us when we were playing when Griffball first started coming out on Halo 3?
Yes, but I don't think I played a lot with you guys.
Man, Griffball was the best.
Yeah.
It's back on Reach right now, and I was playing anyway.
Gotcha. Yeah. So we're all big gamers, and that's how we all kind of really bonded together.
Well, so that's how you assume that we really bonded together. My
Oh, okay. You're a
I
different
feel
point of
like
view.
our bonding happened differently. Most of the people in our group faced some sort of adversity outside of high school because high school is adverse to everyone. It's just crazy.
Uh huh.
But we were all facing some kind of adversity at the same time. And we were all able to band together over those adversities and help each other through those adversities at the same time. And I think that is actually what made our bond as as tight as what it is.
Really
I so
interesting.
it there was a
So,
class that I had
uh-huh.
in college for my RA or whatever, and my for being an RA, and it there was a passage there that pretty much stuck with me, and that's what looking in hindsight at that time made me believe that was communities are built off of one of two things, either exceptionally positive reinforcement
Hmm.
or crisis.
Okay.
So communities band together for one of those two reasons. For the most part, it can be tied into one of those two reasons. During high school, we faced so many different crises.
Such as
Crisis.
what?
Well, there's me and my homelessness and the things that
Yeah.
I was facing. Carl, his mom passing, and things of that nature, and
Or I
him.
guess like for what for me because I'm trying to
You,
think.
um, I can't remember. I
I was
mean,
just trying to
I don't know if
graduate.
that's when your dad started to move away. Uh, your dad moved to Atlanta in high school, didn't he?
No, he didn't move until college.
Okay, well then there was some I can't remember what yours was. I'm again, it may not you may not have had one specifically, but you were
Yeah.
also a part of our group that kept the cohesiveness.
Yeah.
Um,
I see. Yeah, I don't think definitely not to
so
any level that you guys are experiencing. I mean, like
Brandon had his
everybody has
stuff,
their own thing that they deal with, but
right.
I don't think mine was as life altering as you guys.
Brandon had his level of stuff, Ernest had his level of stuff, and
Yeah.
uh
But I do agree,
trying to
like quite
remember
a
everyone
few of
else.
us had things that we were dealing with, and
Ron was just super secretive.
we still don't know what
It
that man
is.
is doing to this day.
Man, it took 10 years for us to find out where he lived. 10 years.
You're right. Really.
Oh man. Any case, um I if I didn't live next door to him, I'm positive I wouldn't know where he lives now. Like
Yeah.
if we weren't neighbors, I promise you I wouldn't see him in this city. Um, but I fully believe that those crises, is that how you say the plural of
I
crisis?
think so.
It doesn't
I'm
matter.
an engineer
Someone
now.
someone in the podcast at some later point will tell me in the comment section, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's what banded us together. Either one of us was going through it or another of us was helping them get through it. Uh, and you have, honest to God, no idea what just going to your house and being able to be there with you on your couch playing games and stuff like that, how much that assisted me in getting through a lot of the things that I was going through.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
who are you
so
living with at that time? Because I remember
senior
at some
year,
point you started living with Miss Stewart,
okay,
but I
so
don't think you
senior
had
year
reached that, right?
what was partially Stefan and Trayshawn. Again,
Mm-hmm.
got to the rebellious, got jealous, and just started. Oh God, it was just a pissing match all over the place. And just I was just upset all the time there, and so I felt like I overstayed my welcome, and I ended up staying with Lauren Knight for a couple of months. He
Okay.
and his mom. Um, and then in February 2011, I moved in with Mama Stewart,
Yeah.
OG Stu Stu.
OG Stu Stu.
Uh, she deserved that name because that's when we were in. it was junior year that I gave her that name. Cause she did. It was the same. It was either the same day of the condom stuff or somewhere in that vicinity of the week or so that I came into class tired as crap, and so I came in and I went directly to sleep. Did not pass go. Did not collect $200. Straight to sleep. Um,
But she
and
understood what you were going through, and
she didn't.
oh, she didn't.
It was after class where she knew some of the stuff that was going on, but she was like,
Okay.
it doesn't make sense why I'm so tired because
Yeah.
again, I had to retake statistics and technical writing junior year. So I had to see her every single day.
Yeah, I remember. It seemed like some things were starting to happen between you and Miss Stewart, like just kind of offline. You weren't really like talking about it, but I sort of like took note in the back of my head. I think that's
Yeah.
really the time that I kind of noticed, like, oh, this is
So
pretty
at
bad for Sam
junior
right
year,
now.
it was part of junior year that it started.
Yeah.
Um, so I was still working at Shorty Smalls even during the school year, but I was only pulling doubles on the weekends to try and make up for the time that I wasn't able to make up during the week or whatever.
I see.
Um, and so I would catch the bus from North Little Rock to Shorty Smalls on Rodney Parham or whatever, and I'd work the doubles and I'd show up to class. Like I played football, so football Friday nights we're playing football.
Yeah.
Saturday morning I'm getting up and going to Shorty Smalls and I'm working 12, 14 hours. I do the same thing on Sunday,
Goodness.
and then Monday I'm back in class. But by that point, I'm tired as all get out. So Monday and Tuesday, like Tuesday, I'm just now catching up on my sleep. But Monday and Tuesday, I would just sleep in class because like I don't really care about this class and I need to catch my sleep. So I'm going to sleep.
How many hours a week were you working?
Somewhere close to 20, 30,
Wow.
somewhere in there.
On top of the
Uh,
school load.
on top of the school load, on top of football,
Hmm.
I was still trying to push. I was still trying to pull that many hours. Just because I wanted to keep up with having checks or whatever. Um, I liked money. Uh, um,
But also,
hindsight
it seems
again,
like at this point
2020.
you had gotten used to like, okay, I kind of need to carve out a path for myself. I can't really rely on
Yes,
other
and so
people.
I couldn't keep staying with people. I couldn't keep just being on someone else's time or dime or anything like that.
Yeah, and a lot of your stuff, you're almost kind of like living out of your truck too at this point, right? Because I remember you had a car and it was
So
always stuff in the back seat, right? Or
that's when I
the
was with Mama Stewart. So
uh huh.
Mama Stewart bought me that truck, and
Okay.
that's when I moved in. That's how she picked me up. She and Papa Stewart brought the truck, and they were like, which one of these looks new to you?" I was like, "I don't know. We're in an apartment complex. I don't know who any of these cars are." And so finally they pointed out the truck, and they were like, "That one's yours. Here's the keys."
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
but at that time, I was still weighing heavily on what I would do for the second semester of senior year.
Uh huh.
Um,
Because
I
had you
didn't
applied to
know.
colleges at this
No,
point? Okay.
I didn't know what college was. College to me at this point, like I knew college sports existed, but
Hmm.
in my mind that was just like semi-pro. You went and played college sports and then you went professional after.
All right. So
I
you're
didn't know that there was an
wow.
academia
That's kind
side
of
to
eye
college.
opening. Because in my household, like we are always talking about college. How we like everything I was doing was like building up to college. Like my
Nope.
parents, everybody had to go to college. You know,
I
but
didn't
for
know it
you, it
existed.
was like, oh, let me just get done with high school so I can just start working even more and just
Yes.
build myself up from that.
Well, not even so I could work even more. I just needed to get done with high school because that's what I was told to do. I was always
Okay.
told graduate high school. No one had said after that graduate college. It was you have to graduate high school,
Yeah.
and that's where things stopped. And so I was like, okay, well, high school's it. And then
So how
in
did you end up
there,
going to college? What's the story behind that? And
that
I feel
oh
like
my God.
um,
Uh,
we're coming up on
so
2 hours. So why don't you
yeah.
just lead us up to college? And I think we're gonna have to schedule a part two just to talk about
Yes.
college and where you are
We haven't
now.
even gotten to like the nitty gritty of that
Yeah.
part. Um, so getting to college was for the people that were assisting me had to be like pulling teeth uh,
Yeah.
directly from the root. We're talking adult teeth. We're not talking baby teeth. Um, so I didn't know college existed. Mama Stewart at that time, because I was on free and reduced lunch, the counselors told me I had two free waivers to get to take the ACT. I took the ACT the first time. I made a 26. I just looked at it last night, actually, because it was on my mind. I made a 26, but I went to sleep during the reading section because I forgot the ACT was the day that it was. So we had just got back from like Mountain Home or something the night before we were playing football,
Uh huh.
and then I stayed up all night playing video games. Wake up Saturday because Kenya's outside with her grandma, like, hey, we're outside, we're taking you to the test, let's go. And I'm like, test? What are you talking about? I probably didn't go to bed until like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And so test is at 8, they're outside at 7. So I'm like, okay, I got like maybe 3 hours of sleep, possibly 4, depending on if I'm misremembering time, the time frame that I was playing video games or whatever. So I go take my first ACT and make it 26. I went to sleep during the reading section. Like I woke up and I skimmed like the last 5 minutes and I skimmed the passage, read the question, skimmed the passage for my answer, and just answered everything. Um,
But you came out
Mama,
with a 26?
yes,
That's
Mama
pretty good.
Stewart looked at it and she was like, "You did what?" I said, "I'll tell you the story again if you need me to hear if you need to hear it again." And so I told her the story again. She was like, "No, you're taking that second test because if you got this on your first one, you can get it. You can do better on the second one. You're already at a 26." I was like, "Okay, whatever." Um, Same time, Miss Harrington and Miss Callicott are pushing for me to take advantage of all my opportunities. So
Mm-hmm.
the school offered the ASVAB on site or uh,
Oh,
in
the
Babs Hall.
military
Yeah.
entrance exam?
hmm And so I felt like that test was an insult to my intelligence. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Um, I made a 92 out of 99 or something like that.
Yeah.
The only section that gave me problems was the shop and auto mechanics, but that was because we didn't offer that in at Parkview. You had to go
Yeah.
to Metro to get that type of knowledge, and I was like, okay, whatever.
Trade school type stuff.
Yeah. So it none of that meant anything to me. Um, and somehow still managed to get scoring like the 92nd percentile. So at this time, I have a 26 on my ACT and I have a 92 on my ASVAB. And we're prime in the middle of military recruitment season.
Yeah.
So instead of them like, okay, we're gonna, you know how they used to sit in the hall in the square or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, what do we call the pits? They used
The
to sit at the
pits.
pits,
Yeah.
and you'd walk up to them and approach them. It wasn't that for me anymore. They started pulling me out of class to talk to me because they saw my scores. Um, and so I had a decision to make on whether I wanted to go to the military or I wanted to go if I could find another option on what I wanted to do. Uh, at the time, I was looking for because I made the 26. I was looking for schools, but my GPA was holding me back. I graduated high school, and I laughed at this part for the first episode. Stefan was like, "Yeah, I graduated like 30 something out of like 200." No, I know exactly where I graduated and exactly how many people were in the class. I graduated 150 out of 252.
Okay.
So, or
So you're pretty
no,
much
I was
just in the
154 out
middle.
of yeah. I graduated with a weighted 2.7 GPA.
Oh wow.
Weighted. So with all the AP classes I was taking and everything, I graduated with a 2.7. I'm
Gotcha.
pretty sure without that, I probably would have barely graduated. Um, yeah. So I was yeah 150 out of 252. Hilarious. I was basically right smack dab in the middle, and not because that's where my scholastics would have actually placed me had I cared. It's just I didn't care, so I didn't do anything. But if you grade a goldfish on how to climb a tree, pretty sure it'll fail that test too.
Sure.
Any case, any case. So I had the decision to make on whether I wanted to try and pursue college or try to go to the military. And did Kenya got a 25 or a 26, and didn't fall asleep. Like she tried her best. Um, and she still tells me to this day that I'm sitting on my brain. But she had the GPA to back her up. So she's looking for we're dating at the time and she's looking for big
Mhm.
schools or
And
whatever.
this time y'all have been
And
together for some years, right? Pretty
off
much
and
like
on.
off and on.
We've been off and on, but the
But she's
senior
like an
year
integral
was
part to your life. That's what I'm
yes.
getting at.
So
Yeah.
senior year is when we got really serious and she finally accepted me for the boyfriend that I was and could be. We actually broke up freshman year, so I ended up funny side note tangent, sorry. Um Her cousins were the ones that lived next door to me when I lived in Southwest freshman year when Precious was doing her stuff or whatever.
Hmm.
And that's how I met Kenya. I sent Kenya a Facebook message, and she's the reason I actually created my Facebook, was because
Oh wow.
I sent her a DM asking if she'd be my girlfriend the day before school started. Because I found out we were going to the same school. She said yes, and then literally exactly 1 month later, um, she broke up with me because she was like, "Well, we're 14, and I feel like you're marriage material, and I feel like you're the man I'm supposed to marry, but I want to live my life like now. I want to play the field." I
Wow.
talk about crushed 1 month into high school, and it's like, yo, dang, I
Well,
know
you
I'm
we made it out all right. Like
I
you
was
know it
dusty and
anyway.
dingy, so it made sense that everybody was talking. So I always felt like that played a role into it too. Like, I was homeless, so I wore the same outfit often.
Hmm.
Winter months were the best. You guys couldn't tell what I was wearing because it was cold, so I just always have on a sweater. You couldn't tell that that was the same shirt from 3 days ago. Anyhow,
Yeah.
so
So college versus military.
Kenya's applying to colleges like Vanderbilt and Drake and big schools like that, and I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, let's find a smaller college somewhere near that because we're high school sweethearts and we want to spend life together or whatever. Um, and then by sheer accident, I took the ACT a second time. I did the exact same thing I did the first time and scored almost identically the exact same thing, um, 26 both times. Um, and
What
Southern
would have
Arkansas
happened had you
University.
stayed awake?
I'm positive that I would have, because it wasn't just that I went to sleep during the reading section.
Uh huh.
It's that I was also foggy after waking up from the reading section. So
Yeah.
whatever section came after reading,
If it
I probably
damped your
would have
score.
done well as well.
Yeah.
Um, so Kenya's really pushing for college because she wants me she wants us to spend time together. Calicot's really pushing for the military. Harrington's just pushing for me to make a decision. Mama
Yeah.
Stewart knew that I was leaning closer to the military because at that time, what I needed in my life, unbeknownst to me, was stability. I
Yeah.
didn't have stability, and I didn't have a good control over my life. Looking back in hindsight, I'm thankful that I didn't go to the military because I I have the mindset that the military is basically like basic training is there to break you down mentally and then build you back up how they feel that you should be built. And I don't share that same sentiment mentally with others. Like,
Sure.
I've always been super real, super, like, you're not going to run up into my face and scream at me because you want me to do something that I'm
Yeah.
not going to respond
You
well
had
to
an
that.
issue with authority.
I have a serious issue with authority. Oh my God. Because
So
I didn't need it. Up at 14 years old, I'm figuring out life because I have to go do this.
right.
Um, so I had a huge issue with authority. So I didn't really want to lean military. Um, and then Southern Arkansas University, I legitimately thought this was a scam. I got a letter in the mail saying I got a full academic ride to attend Southern Arkansas University,
Oh
and
wow.
this is in May. This is like right before we graduate. This
Yeah.
is right after they kick us out of school and tell us, you're not going to school for like the last month because all the standardized testing is over.
Yeah.
Um, and so
How
there,
did you applied there?
no, I didn't know the place existed
Who
ever.
somebody submitted an
So
application or what? Did they get a hold
no.
of your ACT
So
scores?
that's what it was. That's how they found out about me.
I see.
And I didn't find out until I started working for the admissions office my sophomore year
Uh huh.
of college. Was they purchased uh scores from the ACT
I
for
see.
people in their area, for people in that area, and I popped up in that purchase. And so they were like, okay, he qualifies. We're sending this to him. If he accepts, he accepts. If he doesn't, he doesn't. So they sent me the letter saying it was like, at the time it was like 20K worth of, it was like $20,400 worth of academic scholarship, which was basically a full ride for them. Because classes per semester were like 3K, and then
Mm-hmm.
room and board was somewhere close to that as well. So I was only paying $6,000 a semester for this school, um, not including some other stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but on top of that, I also had the Arkansas lottery before they blew that thing to
Oh
hell in
yeah.
a handbasket. And that's when they were still giving us like 1,500 full or 2,500. I don't remember which one it was. But they were still giving you that for all 8 years. It was the year after because the retention rates for uh, in-state students was so low. Like, it was, people were just going to school and then dropping out.
Yeah.
And so they changed the rules on the lottery or whatever to like 1,500, and then they changed the rules again to where the longer you stayed in school, the more they were willing to give you.
I
I
see.
don't know what the rules are now, but so I had that, I had the Pell Grant, and then I had the academic. Um, and
So with
on
all
top of
that,
that,
you were
I was
just
paid
good
for
to
school.
go for
I was good
college.
to go for school, and then I also I would have gotten a scholarship to play football there as a kicker, but had they given me any athletic money, I wouldn't have been able to get a refund check.
I see.
Um,
So you
so
just went on as
they
like a
invited
walk
me as
on or
a
something?
yes,
Okay.
I got invited as a preferred walk on to play football so that I could keep my money. And that was pretty much, and after I got all of the dynamics of that worked out, it was like, okay, well, school seems like the better option. I
Yeah.
don't want to go to the military and then buy a charger. That pretty much seems like what everyone does.
Yeah.
So
So now we're up
um,
to college.
we're up to college, and it
Yeah.
gets nittier and grittier. But stay tuned for part two because we are at an hour and 55 minutes.
Yeah. But that, man, let's just do a quick recap because that's a lot. That's heavy. This is why I wanted
So
you on because like I feel like your perspective on things is just so different from even like a lot of people in our friend group, let alone like other people that we encounter day to day. But it seems like you've just always focused on like, okay, how can I make the situation better? And that just kind of had like this snowball effect throughout your life, you know? Because you started like just being bounced around between siblings and through states, through different cities, schools. But all along the way, you sort of found people who you're like, oh, they care about me, so I'm gonna accept them in my life
yes and no.
to
Let
an
me.
extent. Yeah,
Okay, so
I was
that
about to say
one,
because you still have trouble with
I have trouble with accepting people
yeah,
into my life, but only because a lot of people leave my life, and
sure,
so I subconsciously test them, and I do my best, apparently, to try and force people away to test to see whether or not whether or not they will stay. And so a lot of the people that wanted to help me, I was a major headache to because I tried my best to not accept help,
hmm,
and they were stubborn and resilient enough to be like, no, I'm not going to accept that from you, Sam. I expect better, and you can do better, so I'm staying right here. And that is how many of the people in my life that are a part of my support system um, kind of coached me and guided me through
yeah,
things. uh, you guys, for the friend group, I tried my best to force you guys away. I still on occasion will just stop talking to you guys for a while.
yep. But
um,
then there's always every once in a while I'll be like, I learned from sound a bit and just
yeah. So every once in a while, I'm just like, okay, I don't really feel like talking to these guys. I don't. I'm just gonna stop talking to them. Um, but seeing you guys as my best friends succeeding as you were, um, working through your failures as you were, uh, honestly pushed me to be a better me. Um, Seeing you get accepted to Columbia was like, okay, well, and that was one of the things that honestly pushed me to go to college. It was like, okay, well, Josh and I were in the same classes. He and I learned the same things. He's going to Columbia. I'm not going to Columbia. I'm going to this rinky dink, D2 school over here that's in the middle of nowhere who doesn't have as much prestige or anything. So I know that I should be capable of succeeding here because I know he's going to be capable of succeeding in Ivy League, and those two things are not the same. Um, Seeing Stefan get to Fayetteville, most importantly, seeing Ron, who we had never heard of applying to anything or doing anything, all of a sudden pop up at Fayetteville and was like, now I
yeah,
know
I'm
I'm
going
capable.
to school
So,
here.
yeah. Um, so that seeing you guys do those things were honestly some of the things that kept me, to the point of your podcast, optimistic through a lot of this adversity. Was I'm seeing some of my peers do it, so why can't I?
Yeah.
Or although I've lived through these things, I'm still in this place. Why can't I? Um,
So it's almost like you were like sort of looking. Um, I don't know. You can call it like a reflection pool, but you're like seeing everybody around you. You know, you're seeing both their failures, but also their successes, and then you're trying to say like, well, I'm here, but I could be here based on what's around me. It's almost as easy as that. And it's like you almost like trick yourself into thinking, like, I don't even know if tricking yourself is the right word, but like convince yourself, like, oh, if they can do it, that means I can do it. And I
A,
think that's a really powerful
a
mindset.
vast majority of that was that belief was if you
Yeah.
guys could do it, that I could. The other smaller quantity was my faith.
Hmm.
We can get to that in another episode, but my faith is
Yeah.
also what kept me, oh boy, um, from a lot, and also kept me going through a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but that, and again, this is just up to high school, man. Well, getting into college rather. So we're still, that was 8 years ago. That's still 2011. So we
Yeah.
still have quite a bit to uncover at some other
Right.
later
But we've already
time.
Sam is like 18 at this point. We covered 18 years in 2
Yes.
hours, but I guarantee you these next 8 years are going to take just as long to kind of delve into it because more
It
recent,
gets,
a lot more things happening.
yeah,
Actually,
it's
so
a
I
lot
remember
heavier.
like when you and I first like really started to develop our friendship, I was kind of like off put to you in a way, but not because of your personality. It's just because of how willing you were to like be my friend, given the type of person you were. I wasn't used to that because I'll delve into this maybe at some other point, but like middle school, I was like bullied and stuff by a lot of people who were like athletes and like had your characteristics in a way. But like seeing like you just like, oh yeah, you're cool. Let me hang out with you. I enjoy being around. It was like just very. It was almost like startling because I had sort of resigned myself to being like just this guy that maybe a lot of people wouldn't care to be friends with or would see me in a certain light. And like you helped me shatter that mold of myself, which did great strides for my confidence in different ways, and definitely helped me expand my horizons in terms of the relationships I was willing to partake in. It didn't feel fake with you.
I tried my best not to be. I'm not sure how it actually. I don't mean to keep you going for a while, but this one's kind of funny.
What's up?
Um, a lot of the friendships I've garnered now here
Mm-hmm.
in recent times, a lot of the people tell me that they were intimidated by me. Like
Oh,
that I
really?
give off this intimidation factor. I'm like, dude, I'm like a huge teddy bear, but I'm also, like I said, now I'm 6'3", 220, so
Yeah.
a
I didn't
lot bigger
find you
presence then.
intimidating so much as
But
like you're almost like this big brother bear who came out of nowhere, and I was like, what? But then I was like, oh, this is
so
awesome because I'm like 5'8". I'm a definitely a nerdy looking guy in high school, and all of a sudden here comes this like tall, athletic dude,
I
come from
was far
very
from
different
athletic.
backgrounds, and it
I
was
just
like
played sports. Sports really just played me.
it's just awesome. It was like also had like oh yeah, like I knew it was almost like even though I didn't really have to worry about bullying in Parkview, I felt like if somebody bullied me, like I knew that like you had my back, and I was like, oh okay, nobody's gonna mess with me because I got Sam behind me. It's all good.
Man, I've fought for less. Junior year, that's the last time I got suspended. That's also the last time I got into a serious
Oh,
fight.
I remember. Is that when you knocked the guy out? We don't have to
That's
state his name, but
that's when he stole my iPod, sold it for $12, and this was a fifth gen iPod. I was pissed because I went to all those AP Super Saturdays just to get my name put into this fucking raffle. I win the stupid iPod, have it for a little while, and the only reason that anyone knew that it was my iPod was because the center on the football team used to use it on our away trips because I had a PSP that had all the same music on it.
mm,
Again, super nerd, super weeb. I listened to a lot of anime music. He knew. And so when they removed all the music, the guy had told him, he was like, yeah, it was a bunch of like Japanese type music or something like that. And it was like all the ching chong stuff. His words, not mine. Um, and so then they brought it back to me, and that's when I found out the whole story. And so I tried to beat him up in French class, but of course the French teacher is my soccer coach, so he won't let me do it. And it took four people, and I'm not that big of a person at that time, so I don't really know how I garnered enough strength to walk through all those desks with four people on my back. But we're not going to talk about that part. Then I went to football practice after the resource officer held me in basically in contempt for the
mm,
entire day because I told him I again, I'm not fake. I told him if I see that man again, I'm a beat. He and I are
Yeah.
fighting. Finally, I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of being stuck in this room. I've just wasted an entire day of education, and I go to football practice. Well, football practice, the head coach asked me why I was late, and I see from my peripheral, the guy that stole my stuff and my locker are right next to each other. I'm number 81, he's number 82, and I see him in my backpack. So when I get to my backpack, I see my PSP is gone. But my iPod, like I still have my iPod because I didn't have time to lock my stuff away because I was late. And so I see that he took my PSP. I walk onto his bus. I beat the crap out of him, and I grabbed my stuff and walked off. And
Man, you got suspended.
I got suspended not because I fought. The fight would have been protected had I not shook the bus. I shook the bus when I started beating the crap out of him. So the
Oh
bus,
my
that's when they
gosh.
just started putting the cameras on the bus, and
Uh-huh.
it alerted the bus, and so the camera started. And that's when everything started going haywire. Like the head coach expected me to beat the crap out of this kid at practice, and it would have been protected, but I didn't get the opportunity. They kept me on the opposite sidelines, and he didn't get a chance to play. So I walk onto his bus after he stole my stuff, beat the crap out of him, left. Bus shook. Bus caught the camera. Well, the camera caught the actions. The bus company actually sent the stuff to the school in the morning, and that is why I got suspended.
That's
Was
wild.
because that happened. So they ended up reducing my suspension because basically how how laws you can find loopholes through laws and rules and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. For a fight, I should have been suspended for 6 to 8 school days since it's block periods. But because I was basically able to explain that it was a mutual fight, like he was ready for the fight at the time of
Mm-hmm.
it, they explained it as a mutual fight. So I got 4 days suspension, which really only ended up being 3 days suspension because nobody could get me from school that first day. So I was in the library all day.
And I feel
But
like
that's the
that's a
last time.
good ending story from Sam. Oh
Catch us next
man.
time on part 2 of Optimism and other stuff. Oh,
Yeah, I'm just gonna call this the life of Sam because
did you want me to
there's so
read
many
that
things
now
to
or
pull out from it.
after part 2?
Uh, why not? Because I think like even to this point, you've kind of epitomized what being the man in the arena is. And you can read it again next time as well. But I feel like it should definitely be read out right now because
Oh man. All right.
yeah. So Sam has one interesting life. Um, yeah, why don't you
This
lead us
is
out, Sam?
amazing. Hilarious. Um, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how strong the man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiant. Oh my God, when's the last time I read something? Jesus. Okay, let's start this over and you just cut that part out. Can you do that?
I'm gonna keep it in.
Jesus. Oh man. Okay. Jesus, you see how long it's been since I had to read a paragraph or something? It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how strong the man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys listening in, but I think Sam is definitely a man in the arena, and we'll explore part two of his life, going from college to work till now, and we'll do that next time on the next episode of the Man in the Arena podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for joining me, Sam. Looking forward to our next episode, and I don't know when that's going to be released, but stay tuned.
I'll be here. Thanks for having me.
Yep.